Good day and welcome to Lifestyle League, and my name is Arthur Mafokate, and I'm chilling with somebody. Guys, how do I introduce Mandla? Guys, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mandla Maseko. You know the way you're so learned. I don't know whether are you a doctor already?
Not yet.
Because you are always, whenever I call you, you are studying for something. You know, a lot of people don't know you are very learned.
Well, I don't know. By now they should know that the industry needed academics, and I'm one of them.
You know, it's, I don't know, maybe other people don't understand. You are my friend,
Yeah.
You are my colleague,
Yeah.
You are my associate,
Yeah.
but whenever I chat to you, I get goosebumps because there's always something to learn out of our conversation.
But one thing they must know as well is that when I left government, I wanted to get into full corporate. One day I found myself in a meeting of the independents. And I was listening, I think it was an AGM of Airco. And after we all listened, I was just a pure guest there. And I realized that let me make 2-3 inputs. Gandhi, that was the inputs that made you to say, I want that guy to be in the committee. I don't know what his name is, but I want that guy. So that's how I got back into the music industry.
And since then, I became a big admirer of Mandla, guys. When I first saw, I said, this guy is very intelligent.
Yeah.
It was a meeting for musicians, a meeting for record labels, a meeting for record companies, and this guy just threw in inputs. And as we were voting for the board, I voted him in.
That's correct.
And here we are, having this music giant.
Well, I think it is a big, beautiful answer to many people who say, how did Mandla get into the music industry? Firstly, I think we need to clarify the wealth.
In fact, I was about to go there because when that happened, I said, guys, can I be the one taking all these shots? Because this man, when he got in there, I was there.
Yeah.
You know, and we as an industry, remember you didn't vote for yourself.
Yeah.
We pushed into our
You
industry
pushed me indeed.
because of the inputs that you made.
Of course.
Inputs that you made.
Yeah.
And
of course, I think people needed to understand, firstly, to say that I've been a scholar in the arts. My specialty area is arts, culture, and heritage. I've studied arts, culture, and heritage at junior degree at VETS, honors degree, and my master's degree. So music, if you understand it, is one segment
of arts and culture.
Because you can't run music as a sector independently and in isolation from the rest. So for us, when I came to the music component is when I wanted to specialize in the arts on a particular discipline and take everything else that I know and beef up what we are doing.
I like what you're saying.
Yeah.
So then it takes me back.
Right.
Because then I'm going to say, who was Mandla Maseko as a kid?
Yeah.
What drives Mandla Maseko to go find out more about arts and culture?
Right.
And the journey ending up with you being a music industry expert.
Yeah. Look, let me just go back, especially for those who want to know who Mandla Maseko and what drives me. Born in Soweto, I'm Swati by blood. My mother
Swati?
is I'm Swati. And my
but
mother
the
is
way
Zulu.
you ublela spedisa mnati man.
But that's where I come
and
with
you know
the story.
Zulu.
Yes. But
The Zulu is from the Swati.
The Zulu is from my mother's side, and the Swati is the blood, which is my father. And my grandmother found love in Limpopo. You know, Limpopo, it was just by default that we are there. I mean, we were all born in Soweto, Piri, and we all grew up there. And my grandmother found love in Khamaila Mabitsane, in Skukune, and relocated all of us there. At that time, one has no choice to grow up in the deepest rural areas in Skukune. perfect the language.
But also,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
It's also got to do with the period in time that you might have been born because of the riots in Soweto,
In
as
Soweto,
well.
yeah.
So if your family were a bit scared,
Yeah.
they would take you somewhere where they would hide you and say, can our kids grow without...
Well, like Jesus, I think I'm the last born in the family, following 5 sisters. And my mother has struggled to have a baby boy for a longest time, which is 7 years. So I definitely agree with you that the mission to move to Limpopo was a Jesus approach to hide me somewhere, to grow up and come back and save the music industry.
I love that. So you went there and then, sorry.
Then I grew up
interrupted you.
there. I mean, I studied my primary schooling there, my secondary schooling there, kaya komeng there, became the man I am, then came back. Unfortunately, you know, when one came back in Johannesburg, things have changed
So
completely.
you've been to the mountain?
Yes, of
Sorry.
course.
And
Yeah, for
I
a
always
year.
hear that you are not allowed to talk about it. You know, I'm always
No, it's not.
interested in-
It's not correct that you are not allowed to talk about it.
Okay.
You need to educate young men about the importance of a passage to manhood.
It's called initiation.
Of course,
So
you
you've
don't
been to
have
initiation
Of course,
school.
of course, of course.
What do you learn there?
The one thing that you must observe is that majority of men like me who have been into the mountain are family orientated.
Yes.
You
It's life skills.
you always praise me for it.
Yes.
I've been married
Yes.
for
Ever since I've known you.
for as long as you know
Yes.
me. So we learned that. The second thing, I think the issue of understanding man as a provider and as a protector of the family comes from there, because you are in the wilderness there. Ours was not the same as the current one, where they go for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Ours was a full year.
Yes.
So which
What?
means, yeah, full year out there in the mountain.
And then what about your education?
Well, I think because of the community organized exercise, you do come back.
Okay.
And when you come back, of course, you will have to catch up, because
Okay.
we all had a year behind before we go to secondary school.
I know I interrupted your journey,
Yeah.
but you know,
So I think from that was part of the journey. Came back. I couldn't go straight at VETS. VETS was still an institution that says if you are coming from a rural school, you are not great in terms of language proficiency, which means the English I'm speaking now is no longer the same as the English that I qualified with it at matric level. So you then they say to you, perhaps you must go into a bridging course. And I attended Kanya College. Most of the comrades, if you always listen, they've got a history of a bridging course by Kanya College. That's where I've studied sociology and economics.
Sure.
Once I passed, that's only when I had the subjects of my choice to get into the world of entertainment. And that's where I studied dramatic art, a degree, which is measuring in drama, which is acting and all of the things that you see, and film, which is the making of the magic. So I've learned the power of music, television, long time ago. I studied with Tumisho Masha, Shomla Tandala, Rapulana Sipimo, but I took a decision. I don't want to be the person in front of
You
a camera.
didn't want to be the performer.
I've never wanted to be a performer. I said, I want to be the one behind the scene who makes the show happen. And that's what I am now.
Wow.
I've never wanted
I know
to be
you,
in front. Yeah.
but I don't know all these
Well,
things. Now.
well, that's
It's
the-
even the goosebumps. Like I'm shocked that
Yeah.
I know you, but I didn't even go deeper.
It's very important that this kind of platforms provide us to share with people, to say when someone questions your authority and why you are in this space, is a shallow-minded demagogue approach to how you interact with a person. Some of us, like when you get into medicine, you study general medicine. When you become a gynecologist, you are a specialist. So I got into the space of arts, culture, and heritage as a holistic approach.
But then when you
Then
start,
become a specialist.
I liked it.
Yes.
I like what you just
Yeah.
said. In fact,
Yeah.
I don't know even why I even interrupted, but it's because I'm excited
Yeah.
by all these things. So when you went and studied, you then decided that you need to contribute through government because you went to that conference
Yeah.
through government.
Yes, yes. So I was my first employer was an NGO, and I was a researcher in arts, culture, and heritage, and how media and arts can contribute in assisting education. And that is where the paper that we were preparing was all about. And I think we were more focusing on school TV. You remember there was SABC Education when it started school TV.
Yes.
I'm one of the researchers that through SADI was actually engineering that. And we went to Nigeria to do this presentation, and of course, people normally say I'm charismatic when I speak, so I don't know. But I think I was pinpointed.
I'm a witness
there.
to that.
Yeah, I was pinpointed there to say, this is a rising youngster. He understands the world of arts, culture, and heritage and its intervention that we can bring into making sure that the curriculum comes alive. I was then employed in education for 15 years at National under Kada Asmal and Minister Naledi Pando. So when you met me, I already understood how the government machinery works and how government operate with sectors. Because if you think about it, the health sector is more patient-centered, but it recognizes all the players who make sure that the patient at the center thrives and succeed and get healthy. Similarly, in education, it is learner-centered. Every other player, unions and everybody must know that there is this, but this is where our business is. In the arts, we should be an artist-centered and have everybody around. But I loved what my colleague Mpomlepo has said in differentiating between an artist and a performer.
I was stunned.
Of course, I think this is what we are dealing with. We have created a gap for our sector to be a world of performers, not for the artist.
Guys, I told you that when we bring Mandla here, we are going to be lectured.
Yeah.
Today we are being lectured. Like, I'm shocked that you even went to school for arts and culture, even before getting into the industry. You worked for education. So you understand the educational perspective of the arts and culture.
Of course. The curriculum, the current curriculum of the creative industry in education was developed by specialists such as Dr. Sello Khalane. I was part of that process because ours was then to develop the intervention programs on how do you take the arts and make sure that is SABC Education broadcast that. There was a time where we're trying to put television in every classroom so that when children arrive, there are dramatic stuff that are happening to teach them. Because we need to stimulate our children.
You know, I'm not this educational person. I'm more about passion.
Sure.
But then you're making me think now.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here, I'm listening to what you're saying.
Yeah.
And the first thing that comes to mind is SABC is a public broadcaster.
Yeah.
They don't even have a music program that focuses on just urban or current music styles.
Yeah.
So you as a learned person,
Yeah.
having learned the importance of arts and culture, what goes through your mind when you hear such?
Look, I think that what we are doing when we are starving our own public broadcaster with real content, I think that all of us that are in arts, culture, and heritage should be taking advantage of the platform. We do need to make sure that the way in which that's, maybe let me go back a bit. Why young people drop out of school and come and join our industry and say I want to be in the music industry is purely because most of young people in this country are, in terms of looking at the nature of the children, there are those that are academically attuned and theoretical. There are those that are talented. The problem with the children that are talented in schools, sithi baya phapha, baya rasa, baya kibona baba bangolang.
I was one of those.
Rasa.
Yes.
It's because
I was always number one on the list.
The system does not understand that child. What we have not done is to make sure, like Americans, create creative industry schools that are aligned academically, so that a child who is talented can go into that stream, and a child that is academic can go to that school. So I will have gone to an academic school but still study the arts. You will have gone through the same, through the talent, and we still sit here because you are at PhD level. I tell you today, one of the universities is watching you. I'm sure definitely that they will honor you in one of the others. Some of us won't be surprised. Yeah, we won't be surprised.
Me, you're the first person to honor me.
No, we are academics and we know that people like yourself have managed to break new ground in making sure that you open opportunities for many. But for us, it's chapters of history that are written. Because if I teach about Kwaito and where its origin and why Kwaito was necessary in South Africa at that time, it was a voice of young people who could not express themselves the way in which we assume that they must be expressing themselves, like the hip-hop kids. The hip-hop kids are the children, mostly, of the Kwaito stars, who now know and better English because they are in better. But if you think about your Mawilis, they wanted to express themselves about the condition in society in a manner that everybody else can hear. And that is why when you listen to Kwaito, we're playing with English there. We really don't care.
Yeah.
Kwaito is the only musical genre in English. We love that because we've gone beyond the language. We've now listened to the magic. So why people like yourself must be honored, people like Oskido must be honored, is because we are now aware that these are icons that have written more and more chapters. Ours as researchers and academics must assemble that portfolio and make sure that our children know you don't necessarily have to go through a classroom to be successful in this industry.
But how do we then, looking at the state of our industry, how do we make people like you be recognized so that they can be our custodians? Because remember, we can only write, we can perform, right? But somebody has to preach this language.
Well,
like you said, this kind of platforms.
I'm underutilized by my own government.
I always say that.
I always tell them to say, I know why. Because if you do a proper audit of the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture countrywide, you will find that majority of those people are really not qualified to be where they are. And that is why those people will always close every single door for those who really understand and have studied and specialized in this space.
And that brings me to the topic of certain industries. I understand with other things, other roles, you can have political appointees.
Yeah.
But can't we balance political appointees with real practitioners of those industries? Because I think that's where we miss it with the arts and culture. Mainly, I'll focus on the arts and culture because that's where I exist.
You bring me back, if at all I'm going lolo, and I'm passionate about this.
It's okay.
Dr. Soma Fikeni makes it very clear to all of us.
Brilliant man.
Right. He says, in 1994, when all sectors of the economy were picking chairs or seats on that government table, politicians made sure that there are a lot of political parties that are represented in parliament. Anybody in this country, as long as you've got money, you can start a political party and be represented in parliament. We've seen the rise of many political parties. We have seen the social space dominated by churches. There are a lot of churches that drives the morality of our country. Then we've seen corporate coming onto the table and say, we through our business chambers, you must consult us through our structures. What did arts, culture, and heritage do? We were only singing and dancing and celebrating freedom. What are we now on that main table? We are discussed as part of the menu. That is why arts, culture, and heritage departments, all of them, are utilized by government officials, not political appointees, government officials to benefit themselves. The current squabble around the people that were picked through a delegation to Russia by the minister, the officials themselves called us to say who are the best recommended artists that we must take and export to Russia. We gave them names.
And what happened with that?
And then you then realize that the entire, both the publishing industry, the music industry, cried foul. How did you come to pick these individuals? There was a controversy around that. I don't want to drag myself into the Ntsiki, Mazwai, and minister's controversy, but there is a point there if you look at it, to say it means there are individuals who have the power to whisper in the minister's ear, to say, we want to go, and when we go, we will go with so and so and so and so.
But how do we correct?
Let me just finish this point.
Okay.
I've been a government official. I know that the travel and subsistence allowance from South Africa to any other country outside of South Africa is lucrative. It's lucrative. I took AKA, the late AKA, Mama Yvonne Chaka Chaka, and other artists to Congo. And when we were going to Congo, we're celebrating the Nelson Mandela and all of that. Just us living, I know that the subsistence was good enough for me to leave it in the country, go and work, and come back, because you are paid in the dollars or whatever, euros of that country. And when you change it in South Africa, that's a lot of money. So they know, these officials, that there are embassies around the world. And in those embassies, there are always events around the world. There are Olympics. Who picks these artists to go and represent us in those spaces?
I've asked the same question.
And still you have our artists in our country and saying they cry foul because they never travel. Your work no longer speak in this country. Is who are you connected with to actually be able to travel abroad? And that is what have been neglected by ourselves as organized structures of South Africa. I think we're crying for crumbs. Most of us, we battle in these meetings for us to be known and touch the minister.
You know, these things are very painful. And when I'm listening to you, I'm looking at sport.
Yeah.
You know, much as, you know, teams like Bafana Bafana or rugby could be funded by government, their organizations would be the ones picking those players, picking those teams that are going.
Yeah.
But in our industry, now that you have mentioned, I'm thinking, I've never seen a situation where they say, in the music industry, can a structure, for example, like SAMIC, be involved in helping picking people or rotate them? Or,
of course.
You know.
Actually, as a matter of fact, we must say, who picks the national artistic director of the country? Who is the national artistic director of the country? The one that every single big project of government, we will all know that is the person. And that person must now consult with structures like you are saying. All national coaches will liaise with coaches of different teams to make sure that they pick the best players, they understand the players, and they make them to represent us. With us, nothing like that happens. But let me say quickly, the South African State Theatre has positioned itself as that institution. Even if we don't know, but it has positioned itself.
Is it correct or wrong? Academically?
It is wrong. It is wrong because we have not, as a sector, nominated individuals that are appointed at the highest level to become our artistic directors.
Yeah.
For different sporting code or different disciplines in the arts. Because when you take sport and you take the arts, it's pound to pound. And we are not expecting them to be going deeper into the arts, culture, and heritage. We are saying the biggest bulk of performers and artists are sitting in the performing arts sector, which is declared by UNESCO. In South Africa, you are calling it performance and celebration. That is a sector. That is where you find the bulk of individuals that can actually be in front of the camera and can be on stage. It's not difficult to say who through this sector will become our national artistic director. And so that me and you can be able to groom young people and make sure that that person can see them through various structures.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't even know where to start because I've always said I need to speak to people that understand this industry.
Yeah.
In August last year,
Yeah.
we went to a boss parade.
Yeah.
September, October, November, December, Jan, Feb, March. We are now in April.
Yeah.
Right? It's 7 months.
Yeah.
There's no formal structure
Yeah.
that we can go to as an industry
Yeah.
and go raise these voices.
Yeah.
So how do we then start to communicate with the powers that be to say, time is running out.
Yeah.
Our kids are growing.
Yeah.
If you multiply this 7 by 4,
Yeah.
it gives you for 28,
Yeah.
which is 28 months.
Yeah.
And that's a big loss for our kids.
The beauty is that I was very fortunate in my journey to sit in various music industry structures. And
Not just music
yeah,
only.
Yeah, well, I
Remember,
in
people
many
don't
other-
even know you are part of the foundation of SIFSA.
Yes. Well, look, I'm fortunate that my peers who value my contribution in this, they normally nominate me. And through this process of the Boss Parade, and I know where we come from with it, I was very fortunate to be in the Sector 6 part of what the music, because I think there are 17 sectors. So of
Are
this,
they now 17? They were
now
16.
They are now 17
You
sectors.
see, we were not informed.
Well, I'm sharing
So
with
another
you.
one is squeezed in now.
Well, yes, you're quite right. So I'm sitting in there, and I now know where we are with these processes. But you see, these are processes of we are in a sector that is based on trial at all times. Look, forget about how SIFSA was born, but there was a vision there. If we had given it time and we're not electing each other the way we do, SIFSA will be SASCOC.
It would have been one of the biggest and highly recognized organizations in the country.
But let me tell you now,
It's
where
actually
the-
heartbreaking if you've seen the inception of SIFSA and where it is today, if it's still there.
But it was a stillborn SIFSA. It was, by the time it was born, already we knew it will be deformed. Why was SIFSA deformed? When the minister appointed us in 2015, I was one of the members of the team that was researching about what the minister wants to do. Now, let's leave personalities that leave SIFSA, but let's look at the principle. we wanted an industry body that will be an act of parliament. Your SASCOC is an act of parliament.
Yes.
Health Professional Council of South Africa is an act of parliament, which means when government asks for money for sports, they know that those billions will be allocated to the sector through SASCOC for SASCOC to give to all the other bodies that create
So would
sports.
you say that you would have wished for SIFSA to be a
No,
regulatory
SIFSA should have been an act of
regulatory
parliament.
body?
Yeah, it should have been an act of parliament. If SIFSA was an act of parliament, we're all going to be forced to create the sector councils like SAMIC.
Yes.
So the birth of SAMIC was part of that logic to say, SAMIC, you are part of a chamber. Your job will give you all your 2 billion to take care of the music industry. And that was going to happen categorically. But what then the then leaders in the department downplayed the power of SIFSA to become an act of parliament.
Would you say it was downplayed or it was strategically manipulated and sabotaged?
It was. I mean, I wanted to use those
Yes,
words,
yes.
but I did not want to go there.
Okay.
And we know the individuals. Because firstly, Pomolepo, myself, and other people fought for the second C in SIFSA.
Yes.
Because they wanted it to become just a creative industries. Creative industries are not cultural industries. You must
There's
never
a
confuse
difference,
the two.
and
Huge difference.
that needs to be clarified. People
Yeah.
need to understand there is cultural
Yes.
and creative,
creative.
industry.
Yeah.
And they will never be the same.
No, they will never be the same. You see,
Maybe you need to break it down so that people
look,
understand what.
Allow me to lecture
Yes.
now, just a bit.
Yes.
Art is the expression. That's where people do things. Culture is your origin. That's where everything starts. And heritage is your reservoir. Which means any person who performs will always look back and say, what does my culture has for me to become the performer I want? And then whatever this person does will keep it in archives to become heritage for
yes.
future. And I'm going to give you a simple example. When Java got into the world of hip hop, he took two things in the Zulu culture: the attire of the Zulu people and the language of the Zulu people, and said, I will keep quiet and I will come in on stage looking like this person. Now, that is when now you see, we then say, oh, thank you, Lord. We've got now hip-hop artists who are embracing culture. They have to embrace their culture. That's their origin. Performance and arts is where we are expressing ourselves so that we can document it the way you are doing it. Because what Java did is not what Zulu Boy did. All Zulu Boy did, Zulu Boy used the word Zulu to automatically identify with the Zulu nation. And all he did was just to make sure go to Fagaland. And that's it. But he became part of the culture that was rebellious to the American influence into our hip hop. So it is very, very important for our people to understand the birth of SIFSA was through blood and sweat, because we were arguing and fighting for its status to be correct. Strategically, it was sabotaged, and we know why they did not want it to become part of an act of parliament, because it was going to command a lot of budget as SIFSA, and that lot of budget was going to make all of us thrive. I can tell you that Mafokate, you've been in the game for a long time. Even today, me and you should not be talking about a struggling artist. The system of arts, culture, and heritage in South Africa says you can be famous today, you can be scored now, but once you are ill, sick, ailing, and old, you're out. It's the only industry that does that to people. We do not have any...
And you become a joke in the public.
Of course. I mean, you must know, in the world of fame, we know there is a dustbin for it.
Yeah.
Majority of the people don't know how you came up with all the songs that made you who you are. Now that you are up there, we say sustain yourself there. Any mistake there, when you come down, these are the individuals that have no talent. These are the cleaners, the lawyers. They don't know how you do it. They just hate the fact that people love you for telling them and helping them to heal from their souls. But our very own people are the enemy to the success of artists. That is why you see a large number of artists dying of stress.
And that's going to continue.
Yeah.
It's going to continue. We're going to come back to that one. I wanted to ask, you said in these 7 months, you then started getting involved in one of the sectors,
yeah.
which is sector number 17 or whatever.
Sector number 6, which is the music industry that specializes in the music business, pop music, as well as recording industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so you are participating in just that one sector?
In that one.
Okay,
but of course, we are talking to the one that represents indigenous and folk, and now we know that there is a new one that is actually more Africans orientated. That's the one that is called the number 17. So, but all of us, through my lenses, this is the music industry sectors that must report immediately. Once they've got the money, they must come to SAMIC and say, SAMIC, you have sent us out there. This is who we are. We have now reconfigured ourselves through the work of the minister. We're thinking that through your structures, let's now start talking to your different constituencies.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Is there a point of dividing the music industry into 3 sectors?
No.
Why are you allowing it?
There are politics in the space, and one must not prematurely shoot the vision of the minister. Surely the minister is being advised. I'm sure there are learned colleagues that are out there and helping the minister.
Is the advice correct?
Put it this way. Maseko, if you were the advisor to the minister, what would you have done?
Exactly, that's why.
I would have taken SAMIC and made it Sector 6 and say SAMIC start running. Because the music industry of all of the sectors were the most organized ones.
Or say to SAMIC, include the marginalized. If there is
there's no such.
Yes.
No one is marginalized.
Yes.
It's just unfortunately that in South Africa, arts, culture, and heritage is run on racial lines. And we must never be scared about that.
Hence I'm worried. Hence I said, why divide the music into 3 categories?
It's because we are divided
because
on
now
racial
you
lines.
mentioned Africans.
Yes.
You know, the fact that you just went out and said Africans, already that gives a wrong connotation.
Well, the people that represent Africans entertainment went to the minister and said, we think that we will be excluded in this process. These people have excluded us for a longest time. That's my reading. When I was sitting in a meeting where they were reasoning why we must have this sector 17 that was coming into to promote Africana music.
Because I'm looking at it this way. We are sitting here as a country. You're saying no to Orania, right?
Yeah.
As a country. You're saying you can't have a country.
No, you are shaking your head to Orania, but you are allowing it to grow.
I was going to say that, aren't you, in a way, now starting to divide us as an industry?
Well, South Africa is divided. I mean, as I say, I can repeat it and say, CIFSA was seen as a black ANC-led organized formation for the arts. And it was relegated to black people. That's not how we conceptualized it. That's not how we...
That's not how the first conference was? I was there at the first conference.
We did not conceive CIFSA as a CIFSA for black people. We conceived CIFSA as the only sole body that will represent us in parliament and interact with government and ensure that the art and culture trajectory of South Africa changes to the Vision 30 of this country.
But wouldn't you say, after the first conference, you guys, as CIFSA, then marginalized the other nations like whites? Because the first conference, they were there.
Look,
you know they were there.
Yes. But
And
look,
in one of those commissions I went in, there were a lot of white people.
yes.
But after the election,
Well, that's where now we're getting into personalities. You see, unfortunately, CIFSA wanted to be democratic. And then when we were running the elections, we ran the elections like we all do with the ANC. And that is now a political posture. So once you take political posture, anybody, any populist can rise to the top. I don't want to judge anybody who have left.
Yeah, we
CIFSA.
can't mention the names.
I have no
yes,
interest in
but
that.
Yes.
My wish, and this is what we have advised in Tlantla at the time, to say, let us recommend to the minister to handpick individuals for the next 5 years to run CIFSA until CIFSA does exactly what we have conceived it for. People there, they turned around and went to the minister to say, make it democratic. The artist wants you to engage with them. When we were in Mangaung, what you saw there, I mean, I was nearly killed in Mangaung.
I saw, hey,
Yeah.
Mangaung
In
was
Mangaung,
something
I
else.
was nearly killed just for speaking out. That's when now you knew that already CIFSA is a stillborn. I hope one day CIFSA, the rebirth of CIFSA will happen. I am not sure with the news minister's vision in the next 5 years how it will be, but we still need a one sector representative body that will do the SASCOG and the Health Council of South Africa role for the arts.
How do we as an industry then try and help the minister see the past, the present, and the future? Because I don't think with what you hear on various platforms, he got a clear picture of what CIFSA was meant to be, regardless of who the leadership is.
There are few powerful people, including ourselves, who sit in every single structure. And I think we need to concede that. When it matters most, we think through our stomachs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a business transaction. For as long as that happens, nothing
But
will
don't
change.
you think that's what's going to delay our industry? Because
What-
we are allowed to be divided.
Of course, the universities...
We criticize each other.
Yeah, but the universities have said to themselves, we are not part of this industry. When our own children go through the universities to be part of the arts and culture and heritage. So they are quiet. Why are universities quiet? Are there no creatives in universities? They are. They are quiet because they are funded. So
By who?
They are funded by government. Remember, a government funds universities. Universities are quiet because the lecturers there, the people who run arts, culture, and heritage classes there, they earn their salaries. They've got these students that they teach, and that's it.
But isn't that delaying the revolution?
That, of course, the revolution has been betrayed day one, as Dr. Somato Tafikene has said. We are on our own. In today's world, I can tell you now, if you are an artist, you are on your own. It's worse if you are a performer, because at least artists have something to hold on to. Mpopo is very nice. Artists are those that have a third eye. Let's not look very far. You have evolved many times. Why? Because your third eye tells you something else.
Oh, yeah.
I can't be on stage forever. I will do something else. But you are always visible to the eyes of those that love you. People don't ask themselves, they must ask themselves why. A performer will not evolve because they are mimicking the artist, as Mpomolebo puts it. Now you have the entry point of the arts, culture, and heritage is so loose that anybody can get in. If I don't feel like washing today, not showering, I can tell my parents that I'm an artist from today. Today. And that's it. Those who come from rich families, then the parents start now worrying about, okay, what do you want? Says, I want the guitar. I want this. We are infested by people who must not be with us, but we are scared to tell them. So we go around and toy for ministers when toying for wrong people. The artist is no longer at the center. The performer is at the center.
You know that.
That's why people like us sometimes. I am not in the WhatsApp groups.
I know. You've left.
I've left the
You've
WhatsApp
left,
groups
yeah.
because I started realizing here I'm no longer talking to Keifas Semenya. I'm not talking to Mama Letambur. We are betraying those people. These are the people who were recognized by the producers of Michael Jackson's music to say this song needs an African chant.
Mama say, mama sa, mama kusa. Mama say, mama sa, mama kusa.
Liberian girl.
Liberian girl.
Liberian girl.
Nakutaka
For as long as we are not at that level, leadership, let's not talk. Let's not talk. We want our artists to be at the level at which when they produce garments, when they produce then write books, when they produce everything must come from that third eye. We're no longer reading novels the way we used to. So it means something has gone so bad that we have accommodated those that must not be with us. And we are calling them us. And we're calling them artists. For me, I have no value in the name artist. I say to anybody, tell us, what are you? Are you a music composer? Are you a performer? Because a composer is not a performer. And a performer is not an executive producer. So don't confuse issues. In the independent, if you become the same, like Arthur Mafokate, but you will have to wear different titles. You are not 999. It is a legal entity on its own.
On its own, yes.
Arthur Mafokate, the performer there, is different from the one that writes the music. So for us, as long as our people don't understand that, then the copyright laws are flaunted, are out of the window. They will never understand them. Once you don't understand the copyright law, then you don't understand the ground at which your business is built on. So therefore, some of us are saying, Guy, when I listen to you, you are no longer where I want you to be. And when people insult us, challenge us at this level, our job, Mandla, is to simplify the language of the copyright law, the language of IP, to every single person that is qualified to come into our industry.
How do we package things like what we are discussing now? And with respect,
right,
approach the powers that be, like your ministers, and say, Minister, can you just give us one more lesson? How do we do that?
Look, there are just so many views, and I think a young person who wants to get into the industry has just so many things to deal with. Fame is the most cruel nectar that was generated by someone who's very smart.
It's actually bad.
It's a terrible nectar. Nectar is sweet and beautiful.
Terrible.
I can speak to a young person here now and say, follow my lead. All the artists I've managed in South Africa do not have scandals. We're just celebrating Yashele Mhlope's 40th anniversary of producing music. He started producing music when I was young. I had an opportunity to manage him for 5 years. That's my life. Now, young people they don't have the time, leader. TikTok does not allow them to have the time. The person you meet today, they either sleep with you or they go into that studio, they drink alcohol, they become famous tomorrow. When someone is famous...
And they don't listen. I mean, look
at
a young person there on the phone. The young person,
gone.
you are talking, young person, you look at the older ones, they're listening, look at the young one on the phone.
Well, they get bored very easily. So, but we know that. But you must know that the same young people are actually creating a world of ignorant people. Ignorance is not an excuse in law. So I can rob you the way I want. You see, the more I talk to you about my contract, and I can see you are impatient, you are just rushing for me when are gigs and what, I'm fine. Because what I've written in there, I know you're not going to get to it. The day the system spit you out like an old chewing gum, once you start realizing, where's my sugar, and you start making noise because you've got some family members, 5,000 on social media that follows you, then you think you can take me to court. I don't have to be in court. My lawyers will be there just for 30 minutes and they are out. Because you have no legs to stand on in the court of law. Now, our children, we might think that it's fine for them not to be ignorant. But breeding ignorant society, we will always be in this bottomless pit.
Which is my
for
problem.
as long as possible. Only those that are keen to learn. We're not saying go to school. I'm one of the lecturers that will tell you, I tell my students to say, look, if you meet me outside, help me to teach you. You don't have to come to my classes. I'm an academic because I want to be an academic. But you don't have to go to school to be in this industry. But surround yourself with knowledgeable individuals. Kasparov has done that.
Smart boy.
DJ Kofi has done that. So this music industry is success on its own. You don't need a degree. You don't need anything. You just need to make sure that the people that handle your affairs are learned. And that is what makes other musicians successful the way Shimza is now. They surround themselves with people who will guide their journey because they know they are not know-it-all. But unfortunately, fame, glamour, and lights shoot straight to the head. I've met a lot of people who are now famous. I've seen lately that the people are trying to guide Scott to say, come back, boy, respect people and all of that. But Scott is just a symbol of what fame does to young people. And there are many who have gone through this journey. Don't think that we are old and uncool. We are the people that frustrate your downfall.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you now, the way in which we communicate if something happens, people don't know. Mm-hmm. We wake up in the middle of the night. Yes. I talk to you.
Yes.
And I WhatsApp you and say, hey, are you seeing this that I see? We will plot your downfall. You don't know. And imagine, it's you, 2 minutes is Vos comes, is Ntlantla is come. These are the big bosses of the industry. You come to us, you want to say something, we are not hearing you. We are not commenting.
I think that's one lesson young people don't understand, that we have walked this path.
Yeah.
We understand this
It's
path.
our industry.
And unfortunately, sometimes they are misled.
Yeah.
They don't want to listen to us at the time they should be listening to us.
Of course.
And it becomes a problem.
I mean, I went to Lesotho. I do work in Lesotho. And my colleagues tried to make sure that I interact with the current Lesotho sensation, Saner. And I had an opportunity to guide him a bit, and 2 minutes. But you can feel these young people.
They say,
look, guy, I don't know you.
Who are you? Who's Mandla Maseko?
Who's my guy? What is this? Now, this is very critical. I then come to South Africa. I sit in my home. Someone on TikTok has been milking Saner's work. His catalog is actually owned by that young person. Saner says, then he writes to me, he says, Ndade Maseko mutu kiona walo wantaisa ujaka music work. It took me 2 lines to make that person take off that TikTok account and then return back everything to Sanel.
Wow.
It's only then that Sanel then says to me, hey, Ntate Maseko, Aribu. But we are saying, know as a young person, wherever you are, that if you have contact with either Ntate Mafokate or Mandla Maseko, you are the most luckiest of them all in the music industry.
And they need to use us.
All these boys that we have groomed, you can call them by name, your Dr. Koza, Stanley Koza, Chume, all of them. These are young boys that came in and respected us for the role and the foundation we have laid. We're not going to let go. We're not going to die tomorrow. We're here. But what we are trying our best to make sure that come into this industry and regard yourself and understand the business part of it. And that's where my strength is. I teach you to see the business in this art.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons I taught the whole country with you.
Yeah, of course, of course.
You know, I always say to people that we are the only organization that has been around the country, doing a nationwide workshop, where people were properly workshopped by real experts, and you were there with us. You walked all the way with us.
But you have seen how far deep we must go. Departments of sports and arts and culture in those provinces today should have adopted that model.
I'm actually shocked. Yesterday, as I was reading in one of the WhatsApp groups, I was told that even DJ Stacy is the spokesperson of the minister. And I said, it's funny that she was also part of our workshops.
Of course, it's because people have learned. I mean, there are two platforms, Mushito and Saada. Those were the platforms that had a best interest at heart to change and clean up the entry point. You see, that's why we were supporting your institution such as Saada, because we say, Saada, you must clean up because you need to clean up the entry. If you don't clean up the entry, we'll end up with a problem in the roof. Because how we have started, the way we'll end, it will not end well. So what majority of the people who are learned in the game are doing is to back off a bit. I mean,
and talking about backing off, I keep on trying to say to you, find a way.
Yeah.
You know, you as leaders.
Yeah.
And I'm begging because I still feel there has to be a way of communicating the real messages to the powers that be and say, we need to redirect.
Well, we have to challenge you there and say, as a leader, we've gave you the responsibility to say, you are cleaning the entry for us. We will avail ourselves.
Remember, with me at the moment, I said, I used the song as a tool.
Yeah.
Now I'm using the broadcast as a tool.
Right.
PT, you are a writer.
Right.
You write books.
Yeah.
I feel like at this juncture, writing a book will take long.
Yeah.
This is the platform.
Yeah.
That we need to use as a tool to add more pressure in trying to say, please listen to us, please work with us.
Yeah.
We love the industry.
Yeah.
We are not here for financial gain. We want to help the industry.
Look, the minute you said come, I did not hesitate because I understand the power of spreading this message. And we are spreading this message in threefold. The first is to say, we know as parents that you are sitting at home with a person that is hyperactive, a person that the school think that is troublesome. That child might be talented. And therefore get in touch with spaces that are relevant and ourselves to help you navigate the future for the child. We are saying to the corporate, NGOs and everybody else, particularly teacher institutions, you are missing in the act because we don't know where are all these graduates from TVET colleges, university students who have studied the arts. Where are they? Who employs them? Because they had spent some time with you. Where are they?
Let's say
So come back and then say to government, government, help us regulate our own industry. We've been saying this for a long time. You will only regulate this by creating an act of parliament.
let's say if the minister
Yeah.
says we need to meet with you as an industry.
Yeah.
Give us documents. Because if you look at what happened at the Bosperet, the minister said, present to me.
Yeah.
Did we present that, or we all just presented our little projects that we want to do as immediate,
The minister prescribed what he wants to hear.
which was?
Minister said, come tell me what you do in the industry. I was one of the presenters. I was presenting about the plight of independent record companies in South Africa. That's what I represent, and I'm passionate about that. But what this minister has never done was to say, assemble all specialists to come and share with us the state of the arts, culture, and heritage in South Africa, as well as vis-a-vis to other continents.
What if he turns around and he said, that's actually what I meant, but you guys misconstrued
Well,
into
then,
something.
I'm very sorry. If you want to say Arthur Mafokate, don't come to us and say, I'm looking for Muduma Silela. So don't do that to us. We're going to go give you Muduma Silela, not Arthur Mafokate, sorry. Minister must know what they want. The minister, Sports Parade was a good platform, but the minister could have said, music industry, present to me the state of South African music industry now and give me the historic nature of it in the past 30 years.
As a sector.
As a sector. So the sector was going to sit down and say, who are the best foot forward? Mandla, Nhlanhla, Arthur, asibhale lento. So that we are having our 15 minutes to go and speak there. Babu Khuzulin come with culture.
Or even organizations. It could have
of
been
course.
your Airco, RISA,
Whatever,
Samro,
but
Sampa,
you need
Sampra.
someone to assemble it and speak on their behalf. That's why I'm saying True Samik will have done a better job. And then do the same with all the other sectors. Because all of us, we know exactly the state. We'll have told the minister three things. In the music industry, deal with the emerging artists. Where do we find them? In all the districts. How do they come up? The issue of a child who then ride a train and come to Hillbrow and then find an opportunity to Newtown and then become a big artist, that journey is old. It must start at district level. What are we doing at district level to make sure that we discover talent there? Why do schools say to us, a child must be registered? They already give you a number. By the time you are in kindergarten, you know why? They want to monitor you until you exit matric. When you get to university, they give you a student number. Why? They want to monitor you until you exit university. You live with that student number for as long as they want to track you. Do we know how many artists have entered the music industry today?
Nope.
No. Tomorrow you go on TikTok, they say, is a new artist. Mapara Pitori, I know. We are not sure where they are. Do we care to look for them? No.
We don't even have a directory. We don't have a database.
Mina bengizotshela minister, asiqale lapha bhuti. Who are professional? Yothandiswa Mazwai and all of those. That is a lot. Don't mix them up. Don't make a simple mistake of a foreigner who live in South Africa, become successful. The mistake we nearly made with Sepotsula. We didn't know that Sepotsula is a Lesotho nationals. It's only people of Lesotho who reminded us that, please don't make a mistake by wanting to bury him and all of that. Is one of us. It's because South Africa does not have a database of its emerging artists, professional artists, and legendary artists. It doesn't. If it has, where is it? Who's the custodian of it? Is the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. Do they know how to do it? No, they don't. We can challenge them any day. They must bring it on to us. Where is it? You don't have a database. You don't know who are the best people. That you really have to. You always classify people as legend on the basis of their age. There's nothing like that.
I always say that.
Yeah, you can't classify people on the basis of age and say they are legend.
I think that's a question of veteran versus legend.
Well, I mean, that's the difference. So
Yes.
that's why I'm saying, when you come to me and then you create tautology in terms of classification of individuals, then I have no value and respect for you. And I know we can challenge the department officials. They have never handed anything to the minister except to say, this is the monies, the people that we gave money during COVID.
Do you think, I'm just thinking wildly here.
Yeah.
Do you think if there was to be a platform, we say, can us practitioners have a debate with the department? Do you think they would agree?
I don't know. I think you people like you have tried, but we've always said,
Like we have a debate. We just iron out this.
For me, I wish one day
Yes, because
we can actually do that.
I feel like there's a disconnect somewhere.
Yeah, we will have to challenge them to say, if at national level you don't have a database of emerging professional and legends, and of course, in part, icons. If you don't have that database at national level, that's a database that must be fed by provinces. Each province must tell you the department's website must be the hub for that information. When you click and then click legends, you must see them. With the advent of technology today, we have no excuse to do the great thing.
I feel like we are an industry that people don't really know about. We are an industry that people assume knows what it's doing.
Yeah.
You know, if you were to go to the nursing industries, I'm sure they would know all the nurses in Limpopo, all the nurses in...
Of course.
If you were to go to any other industry, I mean, even athletes, I'm sure they even know which athletes exist where.
Yes.
But in our industry, the cultural and creative industry, I'm sure we don't even know how many are we. We don't even know where we can get whoever. Like,
that's why every day the department is guessing who to take to the world on our behalf. But in football, you are not making that same mistake. In rugby, you are not making that mistake. In swimming, you are not making that mistake. You know who are the best. Why with us, every day, you must call someone to find someone. You should know who are artists that have performed around the world, how many countries they've attended, what books have they produced, or any award that they have received around the world. If you don't have that, you will only have Voda Kellerman and Ladysmith Black Mambazo and Tyler here and there, just scooping all those awards at an international level. Because there's just nothing, no submission by our own government for our artists to actually be recognized at international platforms.
yeah, you know, for me, I'm hoping for that day where we would have synergy with our government. You know, where we would share the same vision, where we would be in alignment. And
CIFSA was supposed to be the home for the thinking tanks, where a pool where the minister will pick who are my advisors from that pool, and also become a platform through which the portfolio committee in Parliament gets briefing by CIFS on weekly basis on the state of the arts. You cannot have an industry where young people die of stress and frustration, like we just buried a comedian last week, who was motivating other people when he himself was dying inside. And there's not even single statement coming from a parliamentarian to say this must come to an end.
Would the route of us as an industry then meeting the portfolio committee work?
Right.
Or would it be seen as disrespect by the national department?
Look, the department unfortunately goes to the portfolio committee when it is summoned to brief them. We always hear that. What we need an industry body and government and a cordial relationship of a voluntarily weekly engagement with the parliamentarians. These are the people who are making laws. So we need to brief them on a weekly basis to say, if we are now reaching a stage where our people are losing life because of their working in this industry, surely there must be new laws in the health sector on what needs to be done about these people. We are the same industry that has always lamented the fact that the insurance sector doesn't take care of us. There's no new law that compels them to take care of us. So it means that there is a simple disjuncture. For me, really, I've always seen arts culture departments seen as just a money-making scheme. I think many people are making money through that, and they know they cannot account for it. It's fine, man. Everybody gets money through that department, and that's it, because nothing changes on the ground. What is the department doing with a downtown music hub, KZN Music House, as well as Miriam Makeba studios? And how many of those have produced sonic that today dominate the library music of the SABC and other private broadcasters? How many of those are used as jingles? Those institutions, in my master's, I gave those recommendations.
And they're still given money, right?
Music, they're given money. But no single artist, me and you can say, has been produced by Downtown. No one.
Hence, when it was bought, you remember I raised my hand, I said, I don't think this is going to be used.
Well, I was used and I was
You remember I was
CEO
laughed at. You
Yes.
remember when I said that, I said, I don't think, unless if there's going to be a strategy to fund those artists and make sure that they end up there.
Of course, for us, we're saying, use this as institutions where all the small, medium record label owners take their work and say, when it is here, we are definitely sure now it will get into the industry. I tried to do that. Someone went behind Natim Teto and said, fire Mandla. I was fired. Because I was,
so you didn't even
I
finish
was
your
very
term.
strong about creating a fifth measure through Downtown. And I was very vocal because the strategies were clear. Don't like I will tell you. The strategies were clear. Let's create a fifth measure.
Does Downtown exist as a studio right now?
Well, here and there. I know that Limpopo is doing her part and the leaders that are there, but it's just studios that are used to record. I don't know now whether they have a cut machine, but there was a time where when I was a CEO, Downtown Music Hub did not have a cut machine to pay. What does that tell you? It's just a money laundering scheme because it's working on cash. Where does that cash go back? It does not go back to government. What does it do? It's not coming back to the industry. So those are the smaller things of the cancer of corruption from start to finish. And those are things that, are defeating the government's efforts to assist us. You can't have Galo being one of the 99% owner of South African catalog, sells the same horse that it was using to win the races. Then the horse cannot even pull the small wheelbarrow today.
Sorry, I'm laughing. It's sad.
It's like, really, you must really ask yourself, how does that happen? Galo sold Downtown when at its peak.
But wouldn't you say then this might be too much for a new minister to bear with? Because it's just too much problems. And here we're discussing just one.
He's a minister, man. He must know that he must pick his battles. I just think that our minister He's embraced a lot of battles. I love him to bits. I've interacted with him. I have no problem on how he runs the ministry. I just think that there are no 1, 2, 3 priorities that he has put for himself in the arts, like he's doing in sport. In sport, he came and said there will be F1 or racing, whatever.
VAR.
That comes. There will be VAR, and then there will be
Spinning.
the spinning. Those are visible change. With us, there's nothing much that he's pronouncing. He has started these new structures, which we applaud him for. We're hoping that it will be better. But we hope that he doesn't, when he leaves, then these structures die with him.
Are these structures already in operation?
Well, some of them, including ourselves, we are registered entities now.
Wow.
We are now waiting, because the music industry is not playing. We want to give change now. That's what we are. We are now just waiting for the minister to make sure that they inject that 2 million that they said will do. We come back to the industry and say, this is what we must do. And this is the kind of platform where we must come back and talk to the nation about what this new structure will do for the music industry.
What's the kickoff date for the structure for the...
For us, we know that by the end of March, we should have been registered, received the money because of the financial year. The first week of April, we should be on the road. And being on the road means finding platforms through which we can communicate with people. People like yourself can interrogate us to say, what is new with this music sector 6, so that we understand what will you do for the recording industry? What will you do for the popular music that is consumed around the world? What will you do to ensure that the entire value chain understand each other, which is now the business of music? When a young person starts music, must not start music to perform, must start music to create. One song can be chopped into many pieces, become a library music, become a jingle, become a song for radio, and also become a soundtrack, just one song. So if all young people start there, that understanding to say, I'm starting a record company now, I'm gonna start with all my babies. If I've got 5 babies, I know not all of them will want me to be on stage. Only 1, 2 will make me on stage, but this one must be on film. This one must be playing on airlines. This music must be on jingles. This one must be in the library. This one must be used by hospitality industry. For as long as our children don't think like that when they enter this industry, then they don't understand their power of their rights to composition and their rights to sound recordings. And therefore, you will always have people like ourselves who know and see your potential. Take one song, beautiful song of yours, make you famous, but take the rest of the 5 that you have given to me to actually monetize on them. There are many young people here who don't own any of their music. And I just gave you a simple example with Saner, who a person was milking TikTok with his own music, but Saner didn't know. Because why? He was celebrating himself as an icon in Lesotho. Many in South Africa are being milked. And that's why the white community in the music industry is not battling the way they do. It's majority of the black people who are battling because they don't know. I just ask, where are Mapara Pitori now?
Would you believe me if I say to you, I've performed at some point in my life,
right,
15 years,
right,
non-stop,
right,
and I ended up being a Some Robot member,
right,
but I've never been paid for performing at those gigs. You know that the money that comes from stadiums, yes, and all those.
Yes.
15 years.
Yeah,
but I never got paid.
Yeah, but in that 15 years, don't tell us that someone was not collecting.
Because you just made me think
People
now.
collect at every single cent. Because public broadcasters and private broadcasters, public entities like clubs, all of those where your music
Yes,
is.
because we get the ones from the
People
TVs and
collect.
radios and everything, but the ones for performances, like if I go to a club, you know, we never submit what
Those
the
time
cue
sheets.
sheets. The ones for the
But the
performances.
license, blanket licenses. So you don't have to submit.
Oh, so they can come back and say
Of
they paid.
course, they must. They're signing a licensing blanket license deal.
Yeah, but I'm saying, how does one follow up that money to try and find out? I've been a board member.
Because it's there. It's there. The money someone is collecting. There are a lot of people that we have assisted in this regard through senior group, purely because sometimes it's just a question of being stubborn and wanting to know where your real money is. And if you've got evidence that here I've performed, there I've performed, there I've performed, you are collecting. All those entities that have licensing, those are paying. And in entities, if they don't pay, they are closed down. So entities will always pay because they are scared because of there's law enforcement in it. Now, when monies are collected, are sitting in collecting societies. You, for 15 years, are you saying to me, Mandla Mafokate, nobody knows that you've been filling up clubs? Surely someone knows. And they are making money through your catalog because your own company does not have maybe the capacity to collect. It's not only you are talking about it.
I think
there are just so many.
I think it's a question of maybe something might have been manipulated. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, how does one follow that process up to their satisfaction?
Yeah, it's your management must make sure that when they register and notify material, and they because remember, SAMRO, you become a member when you are active. Once you are active, then your people must bother SAMRO.
What do you do as a senior group?
There are three things that we do. One, we are consultants. And in consulting, that's where the teaching comes in, the lecturing. I'm currently doing work with TUT. I teach. I'm an external moderator at VETS. I teach music and I moderate music work. I've got an entertainment component. That is where we do artist management. And it is in the artist management where we take care of your own affairs. From building your own brand, making sure that you are unique, to performances, to following where your money is. That's what we do. And of course, me being myself, I've got a component for investment. I own a rabbit farm. I own a poultry farm. I own a security company. I own a property company. Some of my guest houses are here in Midrand. And that's who I am. And these are now my milk cow to supplement this, how we develop artists, and then we move from there. But I've been a booking agent for the longest time. I mean, most of the sisters like Simpiwe Dana, Malay, and Wanda Baloy, and all of those are the people that I've been taking care of in terms of making sure that if there are inquiries, I connect with them and say, there isn't this promoter outside of South Africa who wants to talk to you. I play in the SADC space because we've positioned ourselves as an entertainment company that takes out our people from South Africa abroad. I've taken Basadi Bamino Amanyalo to Botswana, to Lesotho, and that's how I operate. And that's how I make my money. But key is helping the artist right at the beginning. If we are managing you, you must know where your money comes from.
It's a pity we don't have time, and we're about to close.
Yeah.
And we started, trying to celebrate who you are, your life, but because of the passion that me and you have about the industry, we took another angle. And obviously, we are going to need to find time again because a lot of people had to understand who you are, what is it that you're passionate about. And even now in closing, when I said, what does senior group say? That's just one aspect of what you are doing. I wanted people to understand that that's not a bitter man sitting there mentioning all these things.
No,
He's
no,
actually doing very well and
No,
understanding
we're
the
in
industry.
business. No. Me, you can see by the outlook.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
fine. I've never been in the earth to be poor, and I'm very on records about that. I live a very satisfactory life. I'm a family-orientated man. I'm a polygamist. I'm clear with my life. So I don't want anybody to come into the music industry or the arts, culture, and heritage industry and want to be poor. All we are saying is that there will be those that are super rich, there will be those that are so poor, but we will float in the middle, majority of us, to hold you by hand to say, these are the survival. And of course, you are quite right. I think as a beautiful rider for this particular conversation, no one is bitter. Every industry, we need to diagnose where our problems are. And when we talk about our problems, it's not bitterness. At the end of the day, it's business. I am a businessman myself, and I'm very honest with you to say, if you come to me ignorant, I will milk you. I don't have to be famous. You want to be famous. Me, I help those who want to be helped, but the doors are open. This thing of being connected, you need mang is an old style. Come to us, let's talk to you and understand where you want to be in the next 5 years. And if at all, really you want to be there in 5 years, let's give you the tools, because I think it's about giving our young people tools. Young people must just be patient. Fame it will come automatically, because fame that follows hard work is actually the everlasting fame. And that is where you become iconic, you become legendary, like the best of you, Arthur Mafokate. Thank you very much for bringing me here.
I can't say much till we meet for part 2 with Bramindlos. Thank you.